Oh my God, Charlie Smith, Jong Benji, Georgia Strait. I'm the editor of the Georgia Strait newspaper, and I'm happy to be back for another week on WOW TV. And I'm here with Michelle De Silva, who's a food and lifestyle writer. And Michelle, what brings you out today?
大家好，我的名字是施愿意，我在 Georgia Strait 报社工作。Hi, my name is Michelle De Silva, and like Charlie said, I'm a food and lifestyle writer at the Georgia Strait. And today I'm here to talk a little bit about some interesting news in the Vancouver and BC food and restaurants area.
Okay, I'm going to take the microphone now, and I'm going to interview you, Michelle.
Great.
So, first of all, you were dealing with the Restaurant Hall of Fame, and can you talk about that?
For sure. So this week, the BC Restaurant Hall of Fame announced its 11 inductees for 2013. And among the list are quite a few recognizable names to people who are familiar with Vancouver's restaurant scene. First of all, this has been a great year for the Donnelly Group. And of course, they own something like 15 restaurant bars and nightclubs across the city. Some of the restaurants include the Academic, there's Cinema, the Granville Room, Killjoy, Hooker's Green, a bunch all across really Yaletown, Gastown, and the downtown core. And this year, the Donnelly Group is being honored with two inductees. First off, Jeff Donnelly, who is the founder and owner of the restaurant group, he is being inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as Jay Jones, who is a little bit new to the group. He just started as the bartender this January, but he's being recognized for his work in bartending as well. A few other names that people might recognize are Sean Heather, and he is the founder and owner of the Heather Hospitality Group, which of course owns a number of restaurants in Gastown, starting with the Irish Heather Gastropub, as well as Salt Tasting Room, Judas Goat, and its newest restaurant, which is called Rainier Provisions. Also, amongst the group of 11 that's being inducted this year into the Hall of Fame is Julian Bond. And we interviewed Julian Bond for our cooking column a few months ago. He is the executive chef and director of the Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts. And that's a cooking school in Vancouver in Granville Island. It's not a regular casual cooking school, but it prepares students for a life in the restaurant industry. It's a culinary school. They also have more casual classes for home cooks and amateur cooks. So anytime that you're sort of in the Granville Island area, I'm sure you can pop into Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts and meet Julian Bond there.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of the Donnelly Group has numerous restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of remember Bimini's spending a lot of time in
Yes,
Kitsilano.
yeah.
The other story you did also involved Kitsilano, and you were interviewing Angus Ann, who's a very well-known chef. So can you tell us about that?
For sure. So Angus is the feature for this week's cooking column, and many people know him from Mainam, which is his Thai restaurant located on West 4th. But recently he actually opened a new restaurant, and it's located in New Westminster's River Market. This restaurant's called Longtail Kitchen, and it's similar to Mainam in that it offers Thai cuisine, but it's different in that it's a much more casual, sort of fast food kind of place. Right now it's open during the day, and there's probably just about 10 menu items, and it's really for people to go in, either grab a quick bite to eat or grab takeout to bring home. So I went over to Longtail Kitchen to visit Angus, and he shared with me his recipe for seafood paella. Which people may be surprised to hear that that's what he picked as his go-to dish. Yeah, that he makes at home. But Angus actually has a really interesting culinary story. Angus was born in Taiwan, and then he moved to Canada with his parents at a very young age, and he grew up in Maple Ridge. He then went to UBC and got a fine arts degree. But after he completed that, he decided that he actually wanted to become a chef. So he moved to New York and he studied there, and he started working at pretty prominent restaurants in New York and then Montreal and then London, England. And he at first wanted to exclusively do, European-style cooking. But then he ran into a chef named David Thompson, who was the chef and owner of Nam Restaurant, located in London. And that's a pretty important restaurant because they are the first Thai restaurant to ever earn a Michelin star, which is, of course, the sort of creme de la creme of the restaurant awards around the world. And so after spending a year working at Nam, Angus-san moved back to Vancouver, and he opened Gastropod on West 4th, which wasn't a Thai restaurant. It was back to his sort of European culinary roots. And he opened that in 2006 and that ran until about 2008. And then in 2009, he opened Mae Nam in the same spot. And so that was sort of his first showing of his excellent Thai cooking in Vancouver. And now he's opened Longtail, of course, so that people out in New Westminster are able to experience his Thai cuisine out there. But he, on his off days at home, he says he likes to actually cook other things besides Thai food, and that's why he chose paella. So if you're interested in taking a look at that recipe, of course it's in this week's issue of the Georgia Straight. Online in our food section, you'll also find step-by-step photos and a short video of Angus teaching you how to make his recipe.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the river market, actually. And the person who developed this concept in New Westminster is Mark Shea, who's also Taiwanese, and he spent a fair amount of time in New York, just like Angus-san. And what's interesting about Mark, when I interviewed him a while ago, I was interviewing him in Wild Rice, which is another restaurant that's very popular in Vancouver that created basically a branch plant, a new restaurant in New Westminster. And so Mark was telling me that he sees parallels between what's happening in New Westminster compared to Vancouver as to what's happening in Brooklyn in comparison to Manhattan. And Brooklyn has become this very hip, vibrant cultural place because it was so much more affordable than Manhattan when the price of real estate rose so high. So we're seeing a similar phenomenon in Vancouver, and Mark, who used to work actually for Rise Alliance, which is a property developer, he saw an opportunity and he developed the river market. So they get Wild Rice in there, they get a new Angus-san restaurant in there, they've got Re-Up Barbecue that came, which is a well-known operation in Vancouver. And it's a sign of what's happening in New Westminster. And another person I interviewed recently in New Westminster is Michael Wang, who's a lawyer. And he's of Korean descent. He moved here as a teenager, went to Tupper, and graduated. And as a young man, he experienced quite a bit of racism. And Michael is very conscious that New Westminster in the old days was kind of ground zero for colonialism in BC. It was the original capital of British Columbia. And so what Michael decided, inspired in part by Bill Chu, who's a man who's trying to achieve reconciliation between Aboriginal people, Chinese people, and Caucasians and the mainstream population, is Michael decided to move his law practice out to New Westminster because he wanted to diversify New Westminster. And he says, if we're going to have a diverse community in the Lower Mainland, he said, migrants always seem to be welcome to move to Burnaby, always seem to be welcome to move to Coquitlam. But New Westminster was this kind of colonial island where there wasn't really a welcome mat. So when Michelle's talking about Angus-san moving out to New Westminster, when we see Wild Rice open up in New Westminster, when we see Michael do a major investment in the Columbia Theatre and start bringing in arts and culture into New Westminster, and we see a pride parade and a very vibrant lesbian and gay community, we're seeing big changes in New Westminster, which I think are reflective of this community moving into the 21st century.